Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Culkin's Truergy, also known as Byron Sidious. This is a storyteller's perspective. Optimus, the undeniable. When the Hasbro toy company decided to go head-to-head to compete with Tonka's GoBots in the mid-1980s with their own anthropomorphized toy robot line, the Transformers, I sincerely doubt they intended to create one of modern fiction's greatest and most consistently noble characters. And though I am a books-first kind of guy, I cannot deny that the animated program that accompanied that first wave of the Cybertronian's tale had an element that hooked me and untold thousands or millions of other Gen X/Xennial kids. Unforgettable voice work. Peter Cullen is a goddamn legend, people. No, he has not voiced every on-screen version of Optimus Prime, but his voice is Optimus, hands down. And Optimus, well, he was one of my greatest childhood heroes. Frankly, at 43 years of age in a couple of months, with kids of my own, ranging in ages from 19 down to almost 2 years old, I'm willing to admit that his character remains one of my heroes. I know that I have a tendency to sometimes get maudlin and cynical, but when it comes to Optimus Prime, leader and scion of the Autobots, I find it almost impossible to remain in such a negative headspace. Why? Because despite the myriad incarnations and multiversal storylines, and the occasionally sloppy reimaginings of the Transformers lore and history, Optimus Prime has almost universally stood as a symbol of the ideal, noble leader and hero. What's in a name? To begin with, even as a child, I've always been fascinated with the power granted to certain terms, words, names, and phrases. An interest which I suspect stems from my intrigue with Catholic Mass conducted in Latin. Though it is a, quote, dead language, Latin still holds an odd sort of power and permanence, even today. Etymology is, for nerds like me, fun. Optimus. Now, there's a name, folks, that sounds pretty close to optimal, meaning the best, peak, top of the line. And then, of course, prime. What is prime? It means top tier, top dog, the ideal. So his name could figuratively be interpreted to mean the best of the best, which, given the rest of what we learn and see from him in several iterations, makes perfect sense. The machine, the myth, the legend. September 17th, 1984. It is not a date in history much ballyhooed for anything notable, but frankly, it should be. On that day, the Transformers aired its pilot episode on American broadcast television. Bearing the tagline, "More Than Meets the Eye," the chronicles of the ongoing war between the two factions of the Cybertronian Civil War, the Autobots and the Decepticons, was introduced to an American youth already experiencing a cultural fascination with robotics, and in some sci-fi circles, cybernetics. When the animation studio visited the 1983 Tokyo Toy Expo on behalf of Hasbro, members of the art team noted that the Japanese leader of the Autobots was a large, all-red truck with some white. They were informed that this leader bot, dubbed Convoy in pre-production, would likely be a fire truck, known commonly in Japan as fire convoys. The art team recommended that, for the American and European airing of the program, the coloration palette be made red, white, and blue, the colors of the Union Jack and the American flag. They also determined that an 18-wheeler truck or lorry would draw less human attention than a fire truck in civilian settings, while still conveying the sense of strength and duty that a fire engine might. Hasbro Japan's team agreed, and the cartoon was greenlit and altered. So in September of 1984, when I was only 2 years old, a good 3 or 4 years away yet from latching on to this timeless sci-fi cartoon franchise, the mighty and honorable Optimus Prime ordered his Autobots to roll out into the hearts and minds of a generation. And there he still resides. What makes him Prime? Thanks to the mechanics of IP licensing, there have been a sizable number of folks who have alternately had their hands on the Transformers mythos, including their history and character origins and presentation. As outright odd as some of the world-building lore can get sometimes, though, a few key elements about Optimus Prime remain almost entirely consistent and constant. These key elements help solidify Optimus Prime as a legendary figure. 1. He began his life as a scholar, not a soldier. I have not, at the time of writing this essay, seen the recently released Transformers 1 CGI film. I realize that it endeavors to once again change Cybertronian lore and history, but I am referring herein to consensus character traits and aspects. Originally an archivist and historian dubbed Orion Pax, Optimus was tasked with researching his people's lost or obscured histories, their cultural practices, and their interactions with other species in the galaxy. Through the legends and accounts he read and translated and assembled, Orion Pax came to start seeing a schism among his people throughout the historical record. That some among the Cybertronian forces, especially the warriors known as Seekers, were bent on dominating and enslaving lesser, often organic life forms and worlds, where others among his people tried to establish benevolent ties, trade, and commerce. In the IDW Shattered Glass continuity, which reverses and mirrors many of the characters and aspects of the war, Orion Pax discovered that the entire Cybertronian race was an experiment conducted almost as a joke by an elder cybernetic race, that they were abandoned when that elder race got bored. Spiraling into nihilistic madness, this version of Pax decided to usurp the command of the Autobot military faction of Cybertronians from Ultra Magnus and other superior officers at that time. Taking the title of Optimus Prime, this version of Prime declared that Cybertron's new purpose would be to rule the galaxy, to wipe out all other cybernetic life, in the hopes of finding and getting revenge for having been made without a purpose. But again, Shattered Glass stands alone. It's an abomination almost, an oddment when placed against the backdrop of the rest of Transformers lore. Element 2. Optimus leads from the front line. In every iteration of the Transformers franchise, even Shattered Glass, when the war between Decepticons and Autobots flares up, the Autobots are outmanned and outgunned early on in the conflict. But whenever there's a large battle drawing forces, or a potentially hazardous operation to be undertaken to turn the tides of the war, Optimus will personally lead the way, as he will not ask of his soldiers a risk that he would not himself undertake. There are some few tasks for which he is simply not suited or equipped, such as deep cover stealth or sabotage, a fact that his most trusted lieutenants like Ironhide, Ultramagnus, and Bumblebee often have to remind him of, much to Prime's chagrin. This is where Autobots such as Hound, the military jeep, who's able to utilize a camouflage cloaking mechanism system, comes in handy. Point 3. He is the Guardian. Though I have never been a huge fan of Michael Bay's live-action Transformers films, there is one line of dialogue delivered by Peter Cullen as Optimus that personifies the Autobot leader's approach to conflict fairly succinctly. "No, it is not our planet, but we will defend those who cannot defend themselves." 4. Be strong enough to be gentle. There's a brilliant video on YouTube wherein Peter Cullen, responding to receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award for his work as a voice actor, chiefly for personifying Optimus, talks about when he was about to accept the role. He was having a conversation with his brother, Larry, and his brother gave a response in their talk that, well, my God, just go and listen to that video. It is beautiful. The recent run of Transformers comics, Skybound, sees Optimus's reimagined first moments interacting with Earth lifeforms with a tragedy as he inadvertently steps on and kills a deer. When he looks down, his first utterance is, "Oh no," and he kneels down to scoop up the felled animal. You see, to Optimus Prime, this giant living mechanoid, no one type of life is more or less deserving of peace, joy, and respect than any other. He is a reluctant war leader, one who wishes hostilities could end. Not only that, but Optimus has, on numerous occasions across several iterations, demonstrated an enormous capacity for restraint and a desire to minimize damage to this world and its inhabitants, who are unwilling or unknowing hosts for millennia to the comatose giants of an intergalactic war. Point 5. No matter the cost. In the timeless Transformers the movie, which effectively brought Gen 1 Transformers to an end, Optimus and several of his men spot Megatron and his top brass rushing toward the heart of Autobot City. It is at this moment that one of the most powerful lines ever delivered, in my opinion, in modern fiction, was delivered by Cullen/Optimus. "Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost." As soon as the second half of that line is delivered, power rocker Stan Bush hits viewers with Touch, an 80s hair rock anthem about being brave, capable, and able to withstand chaos, yet come away victorious. And it is fitting for this scene, because for the next minute, Optimus rushes the Decepticons in truck mode, mowing down a Seeker and an Insecticon, before brushing off incoming laser fire, transforming to rocket leap over the others, all while blasting them down from overhead. He does it alone against all of these Decepticons, rather than risk any more of his people. Optimus sacrifices his own safety, ultimately refusing to take the killing shot on Megatron because he might hit Hot Rod too. This willingness to sacrifice for the good of others is at the core of who Optimus Prime is. It is a character trait shown in all but one iteration of the character, that being Shattered Glass. Two notable examples take this self-sacrifice to an almost absurd degree. First In the short-lived Gen 1 cartoons after the animated film, Optimus's body was recharged and brought back as a kind of chaos zombie by Galvatron. Yet even here, enough of his spark, his essence, awakens to realize what's going on, and he flies an explosive ordnance away from a human city, blowing himself to hell to save everyone below. The second example is in the limited alternative timeline series G.I. Joe vs. the Transformers. In that iteration, Cobra discovers the comatose Cybertronians in their ships and reactivates them after setting them up to act as soulless murder machines on their behalf in the war against the G.I. Joes. The Autobots are freed from the mind control and join the Joes in waging war on Cobra and the Decepticons. In the last issue, a monstrous Cybertronian, Bruticus, is going on a rampage, boosted in power and destructive capacity by Cobra technology. Optimus spots Snake Eyes snatching the Matrix away from Bruticus, and he tells the G.I. Joe ninja to destroy the Matrix, that its destruction will take down the menacing Bruticus. When Snake Eyes follows this advice, though, all of the Cybertronians, Optimus included, immediately shut down. Optimus knew that this would happen, you see, and rather than let his people's war ravage an entire innocent world of organic life forms, he chose to bring darkness back once more upon the Cybertronian peoples. Now, don't get me wrong. Optimus Prime was not a perfect leader or role model. Yes, he engaged in deception against Megatron and the Decepticons, which one could argue is not honorable, but he seldom relied on this sort of tactic. And yes, he had moments in various incarnations where, in the heat of battle, Optimus could be terrifyingly brutal. Michael Bay's third live-action film features a 1-minute battle sequence wherein Prime goes full-on battle rager, snarling at the last enemy and in sequence, "You die," as he crushed the Decepticon's head with his bare hands. But on balance, Optimus Prime leads with honor, protects the weak, keeps a limber and open mind toward the various types of life forms and cultures on Earth, and offers himself wholesale to the vision of peace and prosperity at the end of conflict. If the Transformers franchise were to ever be set aside and truly, finally be never touched again, there are a few characters within its mythos who deserve their own individual headstones, and the largest of those would read, "Here lies Optimus Prime, soldier, brother, Autobot leader, hero." I am Joshua Culkin's Truergy, and this has been A Storyteller's Perspective. If you'd like to read or hear more from me, follow the Substack link in this video's description, or check back here routinely for my next presentation. Or don't. The choice is yours. After all, freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Cheers.